Deep night fell on the quiet village, shrouding it in a shroud of darkness. The narrow streets were stuck in the gloom like cobwebs, and only the faint light of the lanterns flickered, reflecting in the dew-soaked stones. It seemed to the inhabitants that the darkness hung over them, like something sinister and merciless. For a long time, the locals hid the secret, mysterious disappearances that took place on their territory. However, that evening, the horror came out of the shadows, leaving its bloody trail on the road leading to the forest outside the village. The Martin family, seemingly ordinary on the surface, hid a dark secret. Their house stood on the very edge of the village, surrounded by the ominous shadows of ancient trees. One day on a full moon, the locals heard sounds that resembled the howling of a wolf, but were more ancient, more eerie. These sounds were continuously repeated in the night, becoming a shrill chorus of nightmares. Legends of unknown evil in the forest were passed down from generation to generation, but no one believed that they would become a living reality. However, since the Martin family disappeared without a trace, evidence has emerged that the gloom hovering around their home has noticeably intensified. On the next full moon, the townspeople decided to find out the truth and went to the Martin house. Despite the fear and trembling in their hearts, the door was ajar, as if someone had left the place in a hurry. Inside, there was an atmosphere of horror, deathly silence, and the smell of blood. In a room lit only by candlelight, ancient scrolls with obscure writings and drawings depicting dark shapes merging with the shapes of wolves were discovered. The eldest son of the family, Igor, was involved in a strange ritual that seemed to be a sacrifice to an ancient evil. Fear gripped the townspeople when they realized that the Martins were cursed by werewolves, dark creatures that awoke every full moon, leaving behind traces of blood and chaos. The villagers decided to destroy the curse and get on the trail of the werewolves. The next full moon reinforced their fear with dark forebodings. The night was cold, and the winds carried something alien and ominous. The townspeople joined forces, armed with spears and torches, heading for the forest, in which, as it seemed to them, the source of evil lurked. The forest swallowed them up, wrapping the dark shadow of its trees around them like a spider web absorbing prey. With every step they took, they could hear the howls of wolves getting closer. Around midnight, when the moon rose in its full glory, the sinister werewolves emerged from the shadows of the forest. The attack was instantaneous and merciless. The werewolves attacked like shadows, avoiding the torchlight and howling lights. The townspeople fought with the disgusting creatures, realizing that every moment could be their last. But the darkness was strong, and the werewolves carried death in their claws. During the struggle, the Martins' eldest son, Igor, appeared among the werewolves, taking on their terrible essence. He looked at his neighbors with animal eyes full of hungry desire and bloodlust. He was the lord of the forest darkness, the embodiment of the curse. Now the townspeople were just a small group fighting for their lives. The power of the werewolves was invincible, and every new one the month brought a new nightmare. The townspeople decided that the only way to get rid of this evil was to find an ancient artifact hidden somewhere in the depths of the forest. They began their search by studying ancient maps and scrolls, trying to decipher the mysterious writings. The forest became more and more ominous as they advanced. Each new discovery brought them indescribable horror, but they continued on their way. Despite all the difficulties, the townspeople moved deeper into the forest, following ancient maps and notes on ancient scrolls. Under the cover of the dark sky and the screaming wind that whispered warnings to them, they reached the place designated as the Tormented Soul. Here, among the old trees, spreading branches like hands trying to catch something dark and unknown, a group of townspeople discovered the entrance to a forgotten dungeon. At the bottom of the stairs, a dark cave awaited them, from which vague screams and whispers could be heard. Boldly stepping into the underground darkness, they witnessed an ancient altar covered with the dust of centuries. In its center stood a statuette of a wolf with sinister red eyes, candles around which fluttered restlessly. Next to the altar was an ancient manuscript containing the key to solving this sinister puzzle. Soon the townspeople realized that the artifact they were looking for was inextricably linked to the curse, and every step they took brought the dark forces closer to liberation. However, to solve the riddle, they need to awaken ancient magics that have been forgotten for centuries. In an attempt to summon ancient spells, a group of townspeople faced a terrible truth. The curse carried not only the darkness of werewolves, but also ancient spirits who swore to protect the secret of the artifact. As they chanted the forbidden spells, the cave began to shake, and the wolf figurine began to glow with an ominous light. The huge tree roots around the dungeon awoke, wrapping around the walls and ceiling like guardians of dark secrets. The ground trembled under the feet of the townspeople. Their glowing eyes were directed at the intruders. Ghostly figures emerged from the shadows, forming a semicircle around the altar. Then, at the moment of the highest tension, the wolf figurine opened its jaws, emitting a dark glow. In the stormy darkness, the townspeople felt a sinister energy penetrating their essence, awakening dark instincts. Igor Martinov, who was standing in front, found himself in the center of this ominous ceremony. In the next moment, he turned into a werewolf, his eyes glittering red and his bones creaked, transforming under the influence of ancient forces. He howled, and his howl merged with the howling of the spirits, filling the cave with darkness and horror. The townspeople were enthralled to magic. Their fate is now closely intertwined with the dark forces. The wolf figurine glowing in the dark was their only hope of solving the curse. But will she be able to free them from the power of werewolves and spirits? Or is this just the beginning of a new, darker chapter in this terrifying story? The next full moon is approaching, and the fate of the townspeople hangs in the balance. After all, the artifact may turn out to be not only the key to their salvation, but also a sinister tool in the hands of ancient spirits who are ready to absorb everything. In their dark power, amidst the glowing darkness of the dungeon, the townspeople felt the dark forces pouring into their essence, their own shadows becoming part of this magic. At that moment, when it seemed that evil would devour each of them, the wolf figurine made a sound like the cry of a suffering soul and disappeared into the darkness. Everything froze. The werewolves and spirits froze in their advance. The townspeople, freed from the power of the dark forces, felt something bright and pure flowing in their veins now. Igor Martinov, realizing his shape-shifting, felt the darkness leave his essence, leaving only traces on his soul. At the moment when everything seemed lost, the figure of a crowned woman appeared in front of the townspeople. She was the gaze of wisdom and power, and in her hands was a burning torch that dispelled the darkness around her. She was an ancient guardian, the guardian of the forgotten secrets and wisdom of the ages. You have freed the darkness that lurks in these forests, her voice sounded, filling the dungeon. But remember that the force you have summoned is unpredictable. The sinister wolf carries healing and destruction at the same time. Choose a path with awareness of the consequences. The guardian disappeared in the light of her torch, leaving the townspeople in a moment of agitated thought. The wolf figurine returned to its place, but this time it did not emit a dark light. There was hope in the eyes of the townspeople, and they realized that now the artifact had become a symbol of their strength and determination. They returned to the village, but now they carried not only dark traces, but also bright sparks of wisdom. Igor, although he remained a werewolf, found a way to control his powers and use them for good, becoming the defender of the village. The next full moon had come and gone, but now it carried no threat. The townspeople learned that the dark forces of the forest can be tamed, and became the guardians of their lands. Their village has become a bright oasis in a world shrouded in darkness. But despite the bright ending, something lurked in the heart of the forest. The ancient spirits, stripped of their dark essence, watched the changes. And something flashed in their gaze that foreshadowed new trials. Perhaps the townspeople have revealed one secret, but unknown dangers may still lurk in their future, the story of which is just beginning.